to inherit the throne of the great Demon King. Only 4 years old, the adorable baby Bonnie was sent to the human world by Luriel to undergo training. But instead, she was identified as a long-lost descendant of a duke and brought back to the grand estate. She thought she was about to start a luxurious life as the duke's pampered darling. Little did she know, her path to becoming the great Demon King would turn out to be far more ridiculous than she could ever imagine. "Excuse me, are you Lady Bonnie? Born on October 31st, inside the orphanage," facing the man's question. Bonnie just blinked her big eyes in complete confusion. The next second, the man dropped to one knee. "It is an honor to meet you, Am Rodenheiner. From this day forth, I shall be the knight who serves you. I humbly beg you to come with me." Hearing the word knight, Bonnie's innocent eyes instantly lit up, shining like they were filled with stars. Had the day she had been waiting for so long finally arrived? It turned out that a long time ago, back when Bonnie still lived in the Demon King's castle, late one night, Luriel, the wet nurse who had raised her, suddenly woke her up. "My little master, the time has finally come." She told Bonnie that to become the great Demon King, she had to go to the human world for her training. She brought Bonnie right to the gates of a human orphanage. And it's me advising her, "My little master, please remember, as long as you stay here, a note will eventually come to take you away, to become a noble lady. That will be your golden opportunity to enter the ultimate gathering place of human, easy marks. You must exploit these fools to grow your own power." Right now, Bonnie stared intently at the knight in front of her. Was this the guide who was going to deliver her to those rich, gullible fools? If so, it meant she was finally taking her very first step toward becoming the great Demon King. However, Bonnie didn't agree immediately. Luriel's warning echoed in her ears. "More than half the people in this world are scammers. You must be extremely cautious and test them first." Bonnie put on a confused little face. "But I'm not a young lady." "According to our investigation, you are indeed a descendant of the Duke of Dia." Hearing this, Bonnie's eyes instantly widened. The Duke's family, that was the most powerful family in the fairy tales Luriel used to read to her, which usually featured a massive, fierce demon father and an adorable, sweet little child in a heartwarming family drama full of twists and turns. Bonnie felt a surge of absolute joy in her heart, but then a sudden doubt crept in. "Wait, that's not right. I already have parents. How could I possibly be the Duke's daughter?" Could it be that she had run straight into a classic fairy tale trope, where the Duke mistakes her for his own flesh and blood and adopts her? Thinking of this, Bonnie couldn't help but feel a little worried. But then she remembered what Luriel had said. In an orphanage, if you want to get adopted, you have to take the initiative to win over your guardian. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a father. Any adult who has been by your side as you grew up will do, so that she can become a cool and fearsome demon lord in the future and fulfill her destiny of growing into an amazing adult. Bonnie decides to use this ultra-powerful guardian to bleed humanity dry of all their wealth and become a truly legendary demon lord. Seeing the unstoppable grin spreading across Bonnie's face, Roden lets out a sigh of relief. "Since you like it, would you be willing to come with me?" Bonnie is more than happy to. She rushes back to her room, dusting all of her plushy friends into a giant bunny backpack. But of course, the most important thing is the secret journal left behind by Luriel. "Little master, if you ever run into trouble, make sure to open this journal. No matter what, it will have all the answers you need." As Bonnie steps out of the gates with her bags packed, her friends from the orphanage instantly crowd around her. They all start talking at once. "Bonnie, are you really leaving?" Bonnie tilts her chin up, looking incredibly proud. That's right. Bonnie is going to live at the Duke's estate, because Bonnie is actually the Duke's 9th child. Hearing this, the kids' eyes instantly well up with tears. With tears streaming down their faces, they start listing all the amazing things about her. "Are you really going to leave us behind? Who's going to make our potato soup now? Who's going to make those honey-steamed sweet potato cakes? And who's going to lead us to clean out the warehouse?" The sadness in the air is palpable. Just then, the headmistress gently places a hand on Bonnie's shoulder, stares down at her, and warns her solemnly. "Bonnie, once you get to the Duke's estate, you absolutely cannot raid their warehouse." But Bonnie tries to protest, but the headmistress cuts her off. "No buts. Otherwise, the guards will lock you up as a criminal, and you'll end up as a slave. Do you understand?" Seeing Bonnie nod in agreement, the headmistress finally lets out a sigh of relief. She pulls the little girl into a warm embrace, offering her most heartfelt blessing. "Be happy, Bonnie." "I will, headmistress. Once Bonnie becomes the ultimate demon lord, I'm gonna make you super rich." Watching Bonnie's excited, retreating figure, the headmistress smiles with gentle amusement. To think she wants to be a demon lord. That is so like Bonnie. As the carriage rumbles forward, Bonnie imagines herself living like a pampered fairy tale princess, showered with love as the Duke's daughter. And from there, she'd conquer the world and become the ultimate demon lord. But as she glances out the window, her eyes suddenly go wide. A massive, breathtaking white temple is shimmering under the brilliant sun. From here on, begins the territory of Duke Udia. Bonnie notices that the passers-by outside are all dressed in white and curiously asks Roden why. Rodin explains that everyone in white belongs to the temple. He says the temple is a sacred place for purifying souls, exterminating the demon race, and protecting the peace of humanity. But hearing the words, exterminating the demon race, Bonnie is instantly frozen in absolute shock. She suddenly remembers Lulil's warning. Little Master, the people of the temple are extremely dangerous, especially those paladins, clad in snow-white holy robes from head to toe. 1. They are nothing but a bunch of cold, ruthless bastards. If a little kid like you ever runs into them, they'll eat you right up. Instantly, a cold sweat broke out all over Bonnie. They find out she's a demon. She is absolutely done for. Right then, she noticed the white uniform peeking out from under Rodin's black coat. Rodin, are you a temple knight? No. I'm a knight of the House of Eudia. Hearing this, Bonnie breathed a small sigh of relief. Rodin went on to explain that the House of Eudia had produced generations of Grand Cathedral paladin captains and holy maidens. They were even granted the special privilege of commanding the Divine Knights, an elite force far superior to ordinary paladins. They are unparalleled in the world, a divine noble family that values nothing but sheer strength. All these complex terms sounded like gibberish to the 4-year-old Bonnie. Human language is just way too hard. What's more, the one who led the army to end the demon war and claim victory years ago was a direct descendant of the House of Eudia. This terrible news left Bonnie completely frozen. She was actually being sent to the very family that defeated the demons? She was completely doomed. My little master, the fact that you're the descendant of the great demon king must never be exposed. As long as you keep this secret close, almost nobody will ever discover your true identity. Luriel's voice echoed in her mind once again. Bonnie took a deep breath. She forced herself to stay positive. That's right, as long as I keep my mouth shut, nobody will ever know I'm a demon. But the moment she stepped into her new room, all her Demon King confidence instantly vanished. There were no glittering jewels in the room, and no luxurious curtains. It was so simple it didn't look like a duke's daughter's room at all. Why is this so different from the fairy tale books? Bonnie's stomach let out a loud rumble. She slumped onto the bed, feeling incredibly sad and hungry. But then she remembered the fairy tales Luriel used to read to her. The children of the great Demon King always grew up in the harshest environments. Suddenly, she sat up straight. Her eyes sparkled with determination once more. That's right. This is my trial. If I want to become a cool demon king, think one is to clean out my room. Just as Bonnie finished arranging her plush toy friends, so a sudden knock came at the door. She opened it to find a stern-looking maid standing outside. It is a pleasure to meet you, Lady Bonnie. My name is Jessie. From today on, I am at your service. Please take care of me. Hello, I'm the great demon king. No, I'm Bonnie, the girl who wants to become a great mage. In her excitement, Bonnie almost let it slip. Jessie didn't seem to notice. He simply explained, in a professional tone, that she would be staying in room 52 of Duke Eudia's mansion. Bonnie spent a long time counting on her short little fingers before finally realizing what a massive number that was. Yes, Lady Bonnie, you rank 16th among the 52 young masters and ladies. The moment those words left his mouth, the fairy tale filter Bonnie had built up, where she would monopolize her father's love, instantly shattered into pieces. So much for being the beloved, doted-on daughter of the Duke. How on earth are there so many kids? How was she supposed to stand out among over 50 siblings? Bonnie felt like her life was ruined. For the second time. This mansion is called the Residence of Trials, and it serves as a boarding academy, where Duke Eudia's family selects and trains outstanding talents. Since you aren't familiar with it yet, we will take you to your classroom tomorrow. All you need to do is attend classes on time every day. My lady, do you know how to read? At the mention of this, Bonnie proudly lifted her tiny face. Of course, Bonnie is a total genius. In that case, you will start classes from the most basic level, Class S. If you perform exceptionally well, you can be promoted to the elite class. Furthermore, a summoning ceremony will be held soon. If you successfully summon a powerful beast, your ranking will climb significantly. What's a summoning beast? Because the divine blessing flows through the veins of Duke Eudia's lineage. So anyone who inherits the blood of the Duke's family can summon divine beasts or sacred artifacts. Bonnie was dumbfounded. Once again, Luriel had clearly warned her. The divine blessing and demon powers are polar opposites. Therefore, when divine power touches a weak demon body, it will burn their flesh into ash. So, little master, you must tread with absolute caution until your own power becomes strong enough. At the terrifying thought of turning into ash, Bonnie felt as though the sky were collapsing. What if she failed to summon a beast? Jessie paused, taken aback. There has never been a case of a failed summoning. So please, do not worry too much. Since you carry the blood of the Duke, you will definitely succeed. Once Jessie left, Bonnie crawled back onto her bed, looking utterly devastated. How on earth am I supposed to succeed? I'm not even human at all. The little demon king fell into a state of utter despair. Meanwhile, a heavy, tense silence filled the Duke's office. Rebrace, Lady Bunny has been brought back from the orphanage. As Rodin reported this, The current head of the house, Rudbrut, raised his head. The passage of time had carved deep, stern lines into his brow. "Have you managed to find the child's biological parents?" "Not yet, Your Grace." The Duke let out a heavy, helpless sigh. "Back then, our ancestors wanted to expand our family's power. To even plan and build this proving ground was absolute madness. First we had beastman hybrids, and now we have an abandoned illegitimate child on our hands. If the number of side branches keeps growing like this, the dilution of our family's sacred bloodline will be inevitable. If I ever find out which bastard had this child only to throw her away, I will show them absolutely no mercy." "I heard the child grew up in an orphanage." "What kind of child is she?" Roden thought for a brief moment, a gentle smile softening his face. "She is an incredibly sweet and adorable child. My little master, Luriel will soon have to leave you to carry out a highly dangerous mission. From now on, you must grow into a strong child who never bothers anyone, and who can handle everything perfectly, all on your own." Bunny patted her tiny chest, confidently assuring her, "Don't worry. Bunny is the absolute best." Seeing her look so precious made Luriel's heart completely melt. "Of course you are. My little master is a true genius. You must keep this secret notebook safe with you at all times, and make sure to open it whenever you're in trouble. But remember, you must never let anyone else see it." Early next morning, Bunny woke up clutching her plush rabbit, Toto. Variel's parting words from her dream were still echoing in her mind. Before she knew it, it was time for class. Jessie led Bunny to the entrance of the Class F classroom. "This is your classroom, Lady Bunny. Please do your best for your first lesson." Bunny puffed out her chest and marched confidently into the room. The noisy classroom instantly felt dead silent. Everyone's eyes locked right onto her. Bunny was bursting with confidence, believing that a perfect score on the exam would secure her place as the Duke's daughter. But to her shock, she ended up with a big fat 0 on her evaluation. Dictation, reading, and speaking. She scored a 0 on every single one. Only then did the awful truth finally hit her. Since she was a baby, she had only ever learned the demon tongue and didn't understand a single word of the human language. This unexpected blow left Bonnie completely deflated. If she didn't get good grades, how could she ever get her powerful daddy's attention? Just as she was staring at her bunny, Chuhuo, in despair, there was another knock at the door. Jessie asked with deep concern, "Miss, how did you feel being here yesterday?" "Normally, children who just arrive find it very hard to adapt. If you run into any trouble, just call for me anytime." Bonnie proudly beamed and said, "I can do it all by myself." A flicker of heartache crossed Jessie's eyes. Could growing up in such a harsh environment make her this mature? "Miss Bonnie, since you were the last one to move into the mansion this year, the date for the summoning ritual has been officially set today." Bonnie's eyes instantly widened in sheer shock. She had almost forgotten about this life or death matter. As a 4-year-old cute baby who was actually a descendant of the demon race, she had been mistaken for a lost bloodline of human nobility and brought back to the prestigious Udea ducal mansion. However, reality was a far cry from the pampered life of a rich young lady she had imagined. Here, not only did she have to compete with 51 other children, she also had to face a destiny-defining summoning ritual. The maid, Jessie, reminded her that the summoning ritual would bring together many distinguished guests. If you can successfully summon a powerful beast, or even a summoning king, or catch the eye of a noble from either the direct or collateral branches of the Duke's family, that person will become your guardian, providing you with a luxurious life and a steady, never-ending stream of pocket money. Bonnie's eyes lit up in an instant, as if she could already see herself being pampered and spoiled rotten. Bonnie will work super hard. I must find the most powerful daddy ever. Her sheer eagerness sent a pang through Jessie's heart. Just how desperately did this poor child crave a parent's love? "Miss, a noble might only act as your guardian, not your father. And there's no guarantee we'll find one, either. So please, don't get your hopes up too high." But Bonnie's face was painted with absolute, undeniable confidence. "Bonnie is a genius. My potential is off the charts. So it's absolutely possible." Jessie found herself completely unable to argue. "Indeed, you will definitely make it happen. If you ever need any help, please call for me anytime." After Jessie left, Bonnie immediately locked the door behind her. She rushed back to her bed and pulled out the secret journal room Lulio had left for her. "My little master, if you're reading this page, it means you have finally been adopted by the ducal family, and your summoning ritual is just around the corner. You have absolutely nothing to worry about. Please trust Luiel." Reading this, Bonnie was utterly shocked. Did Luiel somehow foresee the exact predicament she is in right now? Soon, the day of the summoning ritual arrived. Unlike the other children who stayed up all night, tossing and turning from anxiety, Bonnie was beaming with absolute confidence. She put on the dress gifted by the orphanage director,
Pinned on the hairpin her orphanage friends had made by hand.
and even strapped on the little demon king bear that always gave her courage. Bunny made her grand entrance, looking absolutely perfect. Just then, Knight Loden walked over and asked Bonnie if she was doing okay. "Of course. I've already adjusted perfectly, and soon I'm going to be everyone's absolute favorite." Watching her, Loden let a faint smile slip onto his lips. He even thoughtfully helped Bonnie adjust the little bear strapped to her back. This single gesture nearly made the surrounding children's jaws drop to the floor. "Am I seeing things?" The cold, iron-faced Loden actually smiled once everyone had gathered. They lined up and set off under Jessie's guidance. Bonnie, walking at the very back, curiously asked Loden, Where are we going anyway? To the small temple inside the main building. It's only open for the summoning rituals, so it's also known as the Chamber of Blessings. The moment she heard the word temple, Bonnie's expression instantly darkened again. Meanwhile, a bizarre tension filled the temple. Line, the Duke's eldest son who spent his time wandering abroad, and Killian, the highly reclusive second son, actually showed up at the same time. A total first. Looking at his two troublesome sons, the Duke felt a massive headache coming on.
Are you two trying to drive me to an early grave?
Line, with a casual, uncaring shrug, muttered, "Hey, at least I showed up today, didn't I?
I even made sure to show up for a childish talent show like this.
As for my usual absence, I hope you'll find it in your heart to forgive me." Beside them, his daughter Sarah giggled behind her hand. "Oh, father, don't be so strict.
It's rare enough for brother to even come home.
And
Normally, he's far too busy with his gambling and pleasure seeking.
the moment he heard the word gambling, the Duke instantly blew a fuse.
Klein, you absolute bastard. How dare you act so shamelessly under the name of Eudia? I'm innocent. I was just using the opportunity to gather intel.
He glared resentfully at Killian, who was casually sipping his tea nearby.
What about you, though? How did they manage to drag you out today? Before this, getting you to show your face was practically impossible.
Killian put down his teacup, his voice completely flat.
Father said if I didn't show up, he'd exile me to the countryside.
Bored out of his mind, Klein asked,
I heard those stray brats will also be here today. Word is, there's even a half-beast and some stray cat.
only to be sharply warned by the Duke to watch his mouth.
Meanwhile, Killian remained expressionless, his eyes devoid of any emotion. It's not like there's anything worth looking forward to anyway.
Inside the magnificent white temple,
Bonnie looked up at the vaulted ceiling, gasping in awe.
a massive crystal ball sat quietly in the center of the hall. This was the hour of blessing, where the summoning ceremony would take place.
The children were chattering excitedly,
Guessing what they would summon. And guided by her secret journal, Bonnie was absolutely convinced she would summon the coolest thing ever.
like the legendary, ultra-powerful night dragon.
When that happened, countless handsome nobles would surely fight each other to be her daddy.
Just thinking about it made her giddy with anticipation. Before she knew it, Bonnie was deeply lost in her wild daydream when a loud voice announced, His Grace, Duke Ludbridge Eudia, Commander Klein of the First Holy Knight Order,
Her Holiness, Saintess Sarabe, and young Master Killian. The booming announcements echoed through the room, bringing the entire hall to a dead silence. Bonnie blankly followed the crowd and bowed.
but because she bent down too far, she had to flail her tiny hands to keep from falling over.
Her clumsy antics drew a soft chuckle from someone nearby.
Saint Sasabe stepped toward the crystal ball,
And a pure white light burst from her palm.
instantly illuminating the entire hall. The summoning ceremony shall now begin.
Young Master Andrew, please step forward.
The boy who was called looked thoroughly annoyed.
Meanwhile, Bonnie completely misunderstood, thinking that the flash of light was the holy punishment itself.
Terrified of being burned to ashes, she nervously clutched Rodin's cloak.
Rodin looked down at her with concern. Are you all right? Sensing nothing out of the ordinary,
Bonnie quickly resumed her confident, self-assured expression.
Bonnie was doing just fine.
The first few children stepped onto the stage one after another, but they mostly summoned common animals or ordinary weapons. It wasn't until the host called out, Next up, Master Allen, that Bonnie followed everyone's gaze to find a white-haired, golden-eyed boy. Below the stage, whispers broke out. Is that the half-beast man hybrid? How filthy. How dare he show his face at the ceremony?
He's an absolute disgrace to the family.
Hearing these mocking insults, Bonnie mistakenly thought this boy was about to summon some filthy beast of absolute disgrace. Instantly, Bonnie went on high alert. Could this guy be her ultimate rival? Alan placed his hand onto the crystal ball. However, 10 minutes passed, then 20 minutes passed, until even Bonnie got tired of standing. But the crystal ball still showed absolutely no reaction. Desi had no choice but to bring over a chair for her to sit on. Just as everyone was losing their patience, Alan suddenly snapped his eyes open. A blinding white light began to gather in his palm.
In the next second, a massive white snake materialized out of thin air,
Coiling itself around Alan.
Bonnie's eyes widened in sheer amazement.
Wow, incredible.
He really is my destined rival.
But the nobles looked completely disgusted. A snake? Seriously? How ominous. A half-breed is still just a half-breed. How can a bastard like him even be allowed into the Duke's household? Seeing the crowd spiral out of control,
The Duke slammed his hand onto the table, his roar echoing through the hall. With me here.
who dares to behave so insolently? As a hybrid of beastman and human, Alan had grown up facing nothing but cold shoulders and isolation. So he summoned the royal snake, which was widely feared as an omen of bad luck. At the ceremony,
All the suppressed malice around him finally erupted.
fortunately, the Duke's timely roar put a sudden halt to the mockery. Meanwhile, Bonnie, as a descendant of the demon clan, found herself intensely drawn to the boy. She quietly slipped over to Alan's side.
Her eyes sparkling with unhidden curiosity.
Alan glanced sideways at her, recognizing her as the illegitimate daughter who had just been brought back. Hey, he muttered coldly. What do you want?
Can I touch your royal snake?
Though he found her request completely baffling, Alan still leaned forward, bringing the royal snake's head closer.
As she carefully touched the cold scales, she pulled her hand back, looking completely satisfied. Suddenly, she flashed a smug, utterly confident smile, leaving Alan completely bewildered.
Bonnie patted Alan on the shoulder
And said in a mock-serious, patronizing voice, "Hey, it is okay. Second place is nothing to be ashamed of." Alan's mouth twitched in annoyance. "What on earth are you babbling about?" Just then, the host's booming voice rang out across the hall. And finally, "Please welcome Lady Bonnie to the stage."
Bonnie took a deep breath.
her heart pounding with a desperate longing for the Black Flame Dragon.
Holding her head high, she walked toward the crystal ball. Clutching her Demon King teddy bear in one hand, she tentatively reached the other inside.
In the next split second, her surroundings completely shifted. 13! She felt herself floating in a vast, deep, blue void, surrounded by countless glowing spheres of light.
Black Flame Dragon, here I come.
Bonnie's limbs flailed wildly as she scrambled through the glowing spheres.
Where on earth is that massive black light sphere?
After searching frantically,
She finally spotted a black sphere emitting a dim, eerie glow near a floating tree.
found it. She threw herself forward with all her might, reaching out to grab the black sphere. But suddenly, everything went wrong. A bright red sphere of light, as if possessed by a mind of its own, shot forward and forced itself right into her palm.
Bonnie was utterly dumbfounded. In the legends of the Udia family, the longer the summoning ritual takes, the higher the chances of summoning a rare mythical beast or holy relic.
And historically, that had always been true. 30.
But what was happening with Bonnie was completely unprecedented.
In the past, the longest ritual had lasted only 40 minutes.
Yet Bonnie had been in there for a whole hour. Even the Duke and Master Killian themselves hadn't caused such a massive stir back in their day.
At this moment, a secret hope began to brew in the hearts of the Branch family nobles.
After all, the direct line had always hogged all the glory in previous years.
With rumors circulating that the Duke was planning to purge the Branch families, if someone from the branches could truly make a stunning breakthrough,
It would actually be a massive turning point for them all.
even if that someone was just an illegitimate daughter of unknown origin.
Suddenly, a fiery red sphere of light condensed in Bonnie's hand.
Shooting straight toward the dome, a blinding, white-hot light instantly engulfed the entire hall, and every single person stared, wide-eyed and breathless, at the center of the room. As the light finally began to fade, with a soft, clinking sound, something fell from the air and rolled across the floor.
Under everyone's shocked gazes,
The object finally came to a stop.
it was
An egg.
an egg no bigger than a tiny quail egg.
Bonnie instantly broke down. Faye fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face, crying out in silent agony. By Black Flame Dragon, I was clearly trying to grab the black orb. Who knew some mysterious force would suddenly yak me back? A massive wave of grievance rushed to his heart. Disregarding everything, he clung tightly to the leg of Knight Roden, who had come to check on him, and wailed at the top of his lungs.
Bonnie was completely ruined. He recalled the prophecy in his journal and realized he had been totally scammed.
It was bad enough that he couldn't even read human writing. But now, without even a dragon, absolutely no one would fight to be his father anymore. But if things went on like this, wouldn't he just become a completely ordinary kid?
Luriel's warning echoed in his mind once again.
You must secure a guardian for yourself, no matter what. At that thought, Bonnie abruptly stopped his tears. If no one was lining up to be his dad, then he would just have to find one himself. Bonnie swept his gaze across the gathered nobles. His eyes finally locked onto young Master Killian, who stood expressionless beside the Duke. Those crimson eyes and pitch-black short hair. Wasn't this the textbook look for a powerful, jaw-droppingly handsome dad straight out of a fairy tale? After all, Luriel had said that a guardian must be good-looking.
The higher the looks, the more important they were. Meanwhile, the Duke stared at the tiny egg in Bonnie's hands, lost in thought. An unhatched divine beast egg in this state was a phenomenon unseen in 100 years.
He stood up and announced the end of the ceremony, adding that a banquet would be held shortly. The moment the Duke left, the hall erupted into a noisy chatter. The other children rushed into the arms of their parents. Some bragged about their summoned beasts, while others acted cute to win their parents' favor. And the parents, petting their children's heads with loving smiles, said, "Mom and Dad are so proud of you."
Only Bonnie silently clutched his teddy bear tight, looking completely out of place. Suddenly, he felt a gaze on him.
He whipped his head around.
Killian was still standing on the high platform, quietly watching her.
Bonnie set down her little bear and bowed deeply to Killian. She bowed so low that she had to flail her tiny hands to keep her balance before straightening up. Then she turned around and ran off. Killian's gaze followed her tiny, retreating figure. Ever since this child had set foot in the mansion, she had always been the center of attention. Even her loud, dramatic crying could make the stern, unsmiling Duke smile. After all, it was rare to find a child with such pure, unfiltered innocence. Not to mention, she was the very child whom the Duke's sacred beast had personally found. She carried the blood of Udea in her veins, yet she also had that competitive aura of the combat arena, which he utterly detested. Meanwhile, Alan, who was also considered a hot potato in the Duke's household,
Was a half-human, half-beast born to a beastman and a woman from a branch family of Udea.
Everyone in the family shunned him as a freakish monster. While still a baby in swaddling clothes, his parents had abandoned him at the gates of the Duke's mansion, leaving him to grow up all alone in the cold depths of neglect.
Just then, Bonnie walked up to Alan and waved her hand, signaling him to lean down.
Alan complied, looking utterly confused.
In the next second, a warm, tiny hand landed clumsily on his head.
She gave his hair a gentle rub.
Imitating an adult, Bonnie smiled warmly to comfort him.
You worked so hard today. It was so amazing of you to summon such a cool serpent.
Keep it up! At her gentle touch, Alan, who had never been treated with such kindness by anyone before, instantly leaped back.
His cheeks burned a bright, furious red. What do you think you're doing?
Bonnie blinked in confusion. I'm giving you a pat on the head.
Bonnie and King Snake don't have a mommy or daddy,
So we should praise and comfort each other.
Alan's eyes trembled violently.
He never expected to receive pity from a girl even younger than himself. I don't need your pity.
Get away from me, you useless brat.
With that, he turned and ran off in embarrassment. Bonnie pouted in disappointment. So we can't even praise each other? She looked back at the warm, loving families around her, then raised her own hand and patted the top of her head. She comforted herself.
Bonnie, you are amazing. Bonnie's egg is amazing too. Who knows? Maybe it will hatch into a beautiful baby dragon one day.
Meanwhile, Killian didn't look away until that tiny figure disappeared through the doorway. Only then did he slowly withdraw his gaze.
Back in her
room, Bonnie once again opened the secret journal that Laurier had left for her. The summoning ritual has ended successfully.
Are you worried that you won't be able to get a guardian, my little master?
Please do not worry. Just take the first step towards the one you like. Kenem, these exact words,
And everything will go exactly as you wish. At just 4 years old, this adorable little demon wanted to summon a majestic black flame dragon to make a grand entrance. But when the magic circle faded, all that was left was a tiny little egg.
Just like that, her dream of becoming the spoiled darling of the family was completely shattered. But Bonnie isn't one to give up so easily.
If waiting around passively doesn't work,
And it's time to take the initiative. She sets her eyes on the most handsome young master in the Duke's mansion, Killian.
She's determined to make him her guardian. Following the guide in her secret journal,
Bonnie gets all geared up. She puts on her beloved bunny backpack and proudly marches off. The entrance of the banquet hall is already packed with finely dressed nobles.
By contrast,
Bonnie, wearing an old dress and standing at the very back of the line, looks completely out of place.
Just then, a familiar figure walks over.
Oh, it's the King Snake.
my name is Alan. The boy corrects her with a frown, his eyes scanning the faded hem of her dress.
A trace of worry crosses his mind. What's wrong with this kid?
I literally just yelled at her a moment ago.
Yet she still comes up to me with such a bright smile.
Alan feels a wave of helplessness once she sees what I really look like.
She'll definitely run away in terror.
Seeing Alan staring at her, Bonnie,
It seems he's just jealous of her bunny backpack. She even turns around to proudly show it off.
Looking at her worn-out clothes that are so out of place, Alan sighs helplessly.
But still extends his hand to her.
He turns his head away, avoiding her gaze.
But his beet red ears completely give away how nervous he is.
I'll take you to buy some new clothes in a bit. Let's walk together.
Bonnie is taken aback for a moment,
And then a massive grin lights up her face.
Without a second thought, her tiny hand slips into his.
Inside the hall, the lights are dazzling, and the guests clink their glasses in high spirits. The nobles gather in small groups,
Leaving only Bonnie and Alan standing there, all alone.
It was as if an invisible wall cut him off from the rest of the world.
but Alan had long grown used to this cold shoulder. He glanced over at Bonnie, who was looking around in curiosity. The poor kid obviously has no idea how to handle a formal party like this, and she's all on her own.
I need to go over and stay by her side. But as Alan was thinking this through,
He noticed Bonnie's eyes suddenly light up.
she marched right through the crowd, heading straight for the Duke's inner circle.
there sat Killian, resting his chin on his hand, completely bored out of his mind.
Suddenly, a sweet, tiny voice piped up. Hello, my name is Bonnie.
I am 4 years old.
Killian turned his head,
There was a little girl, holding up 4 fingers.
looking up at him with absolute seriousness.
Alan never expected Bonnie to be this bold.
He was about to rush after her.
But the judgmental, piercing glares of the crowd pinned him to the spot.
He had no choice but to stop. The surrounding nobles gasped in shock.
Is that the rumored child?
How dare she just approach Lord Killian like that?
Killian Judea.
The boy hailed as the family's miracle, a once-in-a-century genius.
Yet, he was also feared as a monster cursed by demons.
He was naturally cold, devoid of emotion.
And completely indifferent to everyone around him.
He never deigned to speak to anyone of lower status.
Spending most of his time isolated.
He was the epitome of arrogance.
Seeing no reaction from him, Bonnie
Began reciting what Luliel had taught her. May 18th, 887 of the Ratisti calendar, in the south, that Luby, what was it again?
Bonnie got stuck, her tiny face scrunched up.
As she racked her brain to remember.
Watching her struggle,
Killian immediately understood.
The corners of his mouth twitched up slightly as he spoke. The Lubiat fief. Yes, yes! Thank you. This scene left the entire room utterly dumbfounded.
Lord Killian actually smiled, and he even went out of his way to help her with her words. A strange disease will break out in Lubia, and to cure it, all you need is the sap of the manila tree. She had finally managed to recite the entire message.
Just as your little face lights up with smug pride, begging to be praised. In the next second,
Killian actually crouches down, a rare sight.
bringing his eyes level with Bonnie's. Are you saying that on May 18th in the year 887 of the Rhodes Imperial calendar, a mysterious disease will break out in the southern Brubia territory?
And the raw material for the cure is the manila tree, right? Bonnie nods her head eagerly. Killian strokes his chin with his long fingers, his gaze searching. How do you know this? Bonnie gives a mysterious smile.
She has already prepared the perfect answer for this question.
This is it. She carefully holds out the egg she just summoned. Bonnie's egg told me. Killian looks at the egg in her hands.
Isn't that just a quail egg you summoned?
No, it's not. This is a baby egg.
A little baby dragon is going to hatch from it.
Killian looks at the pitifully tiny egg and questions her. An egg this small could never hatch a dragon.
These words strike her like a bolt from the blue. Bonnie's eyes instantly well up with tears. Tears threaten to spill over at any second.
Seeing this, Killian quickly changes his tune. Well, maybe there's a 1 in 10 million chance it might work.
Bonnie immediately beams through her tears. She doesn't understand anything about probability.
All she knows is that it's possible.
Onlookers are shocked that Killian would actually tell a blatant lie just to comfort a child.
Doesn't this go completely against the Udaya family code? Killian gets back to business. Why did you tell me about the sudden outbreak?
Bonnie clears her throat and speaks up proudly. Because Bonnie is super smart.
And Bonnie's egg is amazing, too.
I'm going to be a super powerful archmage in the future.
So as long as you have Bonnie, you're going to hit the jackpot. But in reality, holy power and magic are completely incompatible.
It is absolutely impossible for anyone with Udaba blood to become a mage. Bonnie pulls out a tiny flat coin pouch
And hands it to Killian.
I can do everything by myself. I won't be a bother at all. I can even give you pocket money.
So, handsome mister, do you want to adopt Bonnie?
Bonnie is looking for a guardian for herself.
As soon as the words leave her mouth.
Not just the Duke, but the entire banquet hall falls dead silent.
An amused smile plays on the corner of Killian's lips.
So, you need a guardian, huh?
Yes, Bonnie wants to grow up so badly. But they said, I need a guardian to do that.
But why me?
Can't anyone else do it?
Because you have black hair and red eyes. You're so cool and pretty.
Bonnie likes you the absolute best.
Hearing this,
Killian froze instantly.
his black hair and crimson eyes, so different from his people, were the mark of a demonic curse placed upon him before birth.
He had only ever heard people call him terrifying and cursed.
Yet this was the very first time someone had praised him as cool and pretty. Nani leaned in close and whispered in his ear. And mister, you're the handsomest of them all.
That part is super important.
Killian's blood-red eyes locked onto her.
Do you really think my eyes look nice?
Seeing Bonnie nod without a shred of hesitation,
He let out a soft chuckle. All right then, I will be your guardian.
really? Yeah, I don't have anything better to do anyway.
And it's not like I have any kids of my own.
Killian thought to himself.
Besides, the faint demonic aura coming from this child intrigued him greatly. Keeping her close would make it easier to deal with any potential danger.
With everything finalized,
Bonnie beamed with a brilliantly radiant smile. She promised Killian.
Bonnie will make sure you're super happy with me.
meanwhile, she was secretly plotting in her head.
Once I become a super demon, Lord,
I'll definitely make this handsome Mr. Super rich. Suddenly, she spotted Alan standing in the crowd.
She smacked her forehead in realization.
Oh, Alan doesn't have a mommy or daddy either. He needs a guardian too.
Bonnie immediately rushed over to him. Without giving him a chance to speak, she grabbed Alan's hand.
And dragged him all the way back to Killian.
As she was trying to think of a more affectionate way to address him,
Killian immediately noticed her hesitation and told her his name.
but Bonnie decided to copy the others, calling him Lord Killian instead.
Lord Killian, Alan needs to grow up too.
Can you raise him with me? Please.
And just because a little girl praised him as a handsome mister with beautiful eyes,
The notoriously cold Lord Killian decided right then and there to adopt Bonnie and become her guardian.
Having successfully secured a powerful protector, Bonnie didn't forget her partner in misery, Alan. She begged Killian to adopt Alan as well.
The sudden request made the air freeze for a second.
Before Killian could even speak,
Alan yanked himself away like a startled cat. What nonsense are you talking about? Let go of... But Bonnie was too quick, instantly clamping her hand over his mouth.
turning to Killian, she promised him solemnly,
don't worry.
I can take good care of myself. And I'll take care of Alan too, just like I do with Sweet Potato and Potato.
Killian fell silent for a moment.
his gaze swept over the shivering Alan.
Before he finally muttered, "Fine, so be it."
The entire room erupted instantly. The coldest, most heartless young master of the Duke's estate, Killian, was actually adopting the family's illegitimate daughter and a beastman at the same time.
Even the Duke and the others looked like they had seen a ghost.
Their eyes nearly popped out of their heads. Her goal achieved,
A thoroughly satisfied Bonnie pat out deeply to Killian. Thank you.
I'll come visit you next time.
Goodbye. With that, she grabbed Alan and dashed away, leaving Killian standing there alone until the banquet ended.
Unable to take it anymore, the furious Duke cornered Killian. What on earth were you thinking?
You know those people have been watching your every move.
How dare you make such a reckless decision right in front of everyone?
Killian let out a lazy yawn.
Father, haven't you been begging for grandchildren?
Well, now you have both a grandson and a granddaughter. The Duke's face twisted in rage at his careless attitude.
Just for a stupid reason like that?
You're actually going to put two utterly powerless children under your own name? Killian tilted his head with an innocent look. But didn't you teach me to raise things with a sense of responsibility?
I told you to raise animals, not children.
How are you even going to raise them? You don't even eat your own meals on time. You've nearly starved yourself to unconsciousness several times. Killian didn't want to continue this pointless argument. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave.
The Duke rolled behind him.
You aren't actually planning to raise them as your own, are you? Being their guardian in name only is more than enough. At those words, Killian's rebellious streak flared up. The more he was told not to do something, the more he wanted to do it. In truth, Killian knew he wouldn't make a good father, and those two children didn't seem to really need a father either.
If that child just needed the title of a guardian, then he was still willing to provide it.
As for what a guardian actually had to do,
He could figure that out tomorrow morning.
meanwhile, life went on.
Bonnie still went to Class F every day on time,
But looking at the grimed human words filling the pages,
Her head spun.
she couldn't read a single word.
Seeing your older classmates, who had either been taught by their parents
or learned from private tutors,
Bonnie began to worry.
then she remembered Lyriel's words. Don't worry, little mistress. Books are treasure troves of knowledge.
Bonnie clenched her little fists,
Her eyes blazing with determination.
She decided to teach herself how to read using books.
She dug out her piggy bank, shook it, and found only 5 pitiful coins inside. Only then did she remember she had given most of her money to Killian.
She rubbed her head in frustration.
But she quickly cheered herself up. If I don't have money, I'll just go make some. After all, Luriel had once given her a super secret recipe.
My little mistress is incredibly gifted. You can learn anything just by looking at it once.
As long as you master this,
You'll never starve, no matter where you go.
Bonnie put on her bunny backpack as a devilish smirk played on her lips.
Without looking back, she rushed out the door. She was going to execute her Demon King level plan and pocket the entire Duke's estate.
Once everything was ready, Bonnie went to find Ellen.
She dragged him straight out of the Duke's estate.
Under the glow of the evening twilight, the two kids made their way to the market. Finally, Ellen couldn't help but ask, "Where on earth are we going?"
Bonnie stopped in her tracks, her face unusually serious.
"We have to make a great impression on the Duke."
Why? Because guardians hate troublesome kids. They like kids who are sweet, well-behaved, and extra special.
Right now, we aren't special enough.
So we need to give the Duke some pocket money. Guardians love rich kids. But Ellen was utterly baffled. Why are you so obsessed with finding a guardian anyway? You don't need a guardian to grow up. No, that's not true.
Bonnie pulled Ellen along as she kept walking. If a child doesn't have someone to lean on, they'll feel so lonely. Her words sent a jolt through Ellen's heart. Soon, they stopped in a bustling corner. Bonnie pulled out her tools from her backpack and expertly set up a stall. Ellen was completely dumbfounded. "What are you doing?" Bonnie gave him a sly smile. "Ellen, you really are just a kid. The first step to becoming an adult is learning how to earn your own food money." It turned out, relying on the secret recipe Luriel had taught her, she had begged the kitchen staff to make some delicious snacks.
Now, armed with the sales techniques she had learned, she was ready to make a fortune. The moment the stall was set up,
Bonnie grabbed a paper roll and tapped it on the ground. Her cute, childish voice rang out across the street.
Step right up.
"Take a look, handsome gentlemen and beautiful ladies.
Bonnie's secret recipe snacks are so insanely delicious. They're to die for. You won't be able to stop eating. Today's special deal.
Only 5 coins a serving." Listening to her bizarre yet addictive calling, Alan watched in utter shock as a massive crowd instantly swarmed Bonnie's little stall.
Meanwhile, inside the Duke's estate, the atmosphere was suffocatingly tense. The Duke's face was grim as he listened to his subordinate's report. According to the latest intelligence sent from the imperial capital, on May 18th, a mysterious disease broke out in the Lubia territory. The local lord tried to cover it up, but to this day, no one has been able to find the cause.
The Duke's brow furrowed tightly.
Could all of it really be true? He immediately ordered a total gag order on the estate and dispatched a squad to rush to the Lubia territory, bringing along practitioners of Manela magic. His eyes were dark and unreadable.
Could the quail egg that girl summoned really predict the future?
As the biggest headache of the Udia Duke's estate, the Duke's illegitimate daughter, Bonnie, and the half-beast hybrid boy, Alan, had somehow managed to cling to the direct heir, Killian, as their backer, becoming his adopted daughter and son. to secure their place in the household. 4-year-old Bonnie dragged Alan to the market to set up a snack stall,
vowing to make enough pocket money to win over their cold guardian.
After days of relentless effort,
Bonnie finally earned her very first pot of gold. Looking at the pile of coins, she couldn't hide the smug grin on her face.
She even bought herself a children's picture book to learn how to read,
Determined to master human writing.
But what was she supposed to do with this thing?
She looked down at the tiny egg she had summoned.
Jessie said the egg needed to be kept warm to hatch, but her schedule was just too packed. Classes in the morning, making snacks in the afternoon, cleaning up the stall in the evening, and collapsing from exhaustion at night. Where on earth would she find the time to hatch an egg?
what are you doing?
Alan had entered her room without her realizing.
I've been calling you, but you didn't even respond.
What are you thinking about so deeply?
Bonnie shook her head mysteriously.
You wouldn't understand.
Today is pocket money day. I'm going to see the young master. She jingled the coin pouch in her hand.
We earned this together.
So you have to come see him with me.
Alan looked completely dazed.
Bonnie simply reached out and grabbed his
Hand, leaving Alan completely stunned.
but his eyes drifted to Bonnie's chubby, rosy cheeks. As if possessed, he reached out a finger and gently poked her.
Then, twice.
And 3 times. The moment he realized what he was doing, he yanked his hand back in sheer panic.
But Bonnie only smiled brighter, asking, "Isn't Bonnie super cute?" Caught red-handed, Alan quickly snapped back. "Who says you're cute? You're just a dummy."
In an instant, Bonnie's smile vanished, and her lips pouted.
She looked incredibly hurt.
Alan instantly panicked.
He scrambled to take her small hand in his. "Hey, didn't you say you wanted to go see the young lord? I'll take you there this time."
But just this once, okay?
Before long, they arrived in front of a grand, magnificent white building.
This was the residence reserved for the direct bloodline of the Duke, but the whispers of the crowd around them slithered into Alan's ears like venomous snakes.
What is that beast brat doing here? What a curse. How dare he get near the heir of Udia? Why can't a monster like him just disappear? The whispers grew louder and harsher. Alan's face turned completely pale. Just then,
A warm, tiny hand squeezed his tightly. Bonnie was staring at him with a serious, determined look.
then she flashed a bright, wide smile. "It is okay. Bonnie is right here with you.
What did you say?
Bonnie is going to be super strong in the future.
I am not scared at all.
When the black dragon grows up, he'll also become the strongest magician. The demon."
Watching her babble nonsense with such utter seriousness,
Alan couldn't help but chuckle. What even is a demon magician?
Bonnie puffed her cheeks out in frustration. She huffed, "Alan is a giant dummy," and turned around, stomping toward the main gates.
Alan quickly chased after her.
Wait, aren't you scared of going into such a huge place?
Not at all, because Bonnie is super cute and super strong. After all, she wasn't even afraid of that blinding holy power, not to mention her secret water magic that nobody else knew about. The two of them stopped before the guards at the entrance. Bonnie waved politely.
Hello there.
Bonnie is here to see the young lord. The guard looked down at Bonnie, then shifted his gaze to Alan standing beside her.
His eyes instantly grew cold. A long, heavy silence followed. "Excuse me."
Is the young lord not here?
It was only after Bonnie asked him, again, that he finally looked back at her.
My lady, I'm not entirely sure if Master Killian is in his room right now.
The other guard nudged him and whispered, "He's been shut inside his room ever since the summoning ceremony." "Oh, is that so? In that case, let me show you the way." Seeing the guard's reluctant attitude, Alan couldn't help but wonder, if even these kinds of people are serving him, then this young master must be even more pathetic than the rumors suggest. Watching Bonnie look around with such curiosity,
So innocent and full of wonder, Alan felt a pang of envy. Sometimes, knowing nothing really is a blessing.
he knew all too well that Bonnie wasn't welcome in this mansion either. Many gossiped behind her back, whispering that she was just a bastard of unknown origin. Yet people who don't even belong here have shamelessly taken our spots. I guess trash really does flock together. And ever since Killian promised to act as their guardian, he hadn't reached out to them, even once. Alan was convinced this was nothing but a cruel, calculated joke played by adults, using fake kindness to toy with 2 helpless, vulnerable children. Even if I don't need help, she needs him more. He watched Bonnie's cheerful, skipping figure, and a heavy sense of responsibility surged in his heart.
I'm the only one who can protect her.
Walking down the long corridor,
Bonnie's eyes were suddenly drawn to a massive statue in the center of the hall.
Wow, so cute. What is that?
the guard followed her gaze.
There stood a majestic, lifelike statue of a giant bird, poised to take flight.
That is the phoenix.
The sacred beast summoned by the first Duke of Dia.
It's also the symbol of our family crest.
Bonnie's eyes lit up. She had absolutely no resistance to anything this cool, but she quickly shook her head.
No, wait.
Bonnie's absolute favorite is the Black Flame Dragon. Monty!
Finally, they stopped in front of Killian's room.
The guard knocked softly. "Master Killian, Lady Bonnie is here to see you." Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from inside the room. Bonnie and Alan stared at each other, completely bewildered. The guard knocked again.
Master, are you okay in there?
After a moment of silence,
A deep, muffled voice called out from within.
"Tell her to wait a moment. You are dismissed.
As you wish. The guard turned, bowing slightly to Bonnie. Miss, please wait here.
It will be my absolute honor to escort you later. But the moment his eyes swept over Ellen, that look of utter contempt returned. He didn't even try to hide it. Once the guard walked away,
Emlyn silently clenched his fists.
he'd long grown used to being treated like some sort of mistake. But Bonnie was different.
She deserved to be treated with gentleness.
I will never let the young master hurt you. Not even a little. They were both adopted by the Duke's son, yet the guard treated them so differently. And as Ellen looked at the innocent Bonnie, a deep wave of protectiveness washed over him. It didn't matter if he suffered some injustice, but he would never let her face that same coldness and pain. Just then,
The door finally opened.
Gillian walked out unhurriedly.
So seeing Helen there too? Killian paused, surprised. Did you two come together?
The guard only announced one person. That's right. But he pretended Ellen didn't even exist the whole way here. He's a bad, mean mister.
Bonnie complained, her cheeks puffed up with anger.
Emlyn was startled.
He hadn't expected her to notice that malice.
Killian knelt down to look at Bonnie. Is that true?
And how did he pretend? He only talked to me the whole way. He completely ignored Ellen, but Ellen quickly covered her mouth. He thought the guard had acted this way on Killian's orders. Looking at Ellen's tense expression,
Bonnie suddenly remembered Lauria's words. Little master.
children need adults by their side, so that when they face problems they can't solve on their own, they can ask adults for help. Adults' problems should be dealt with by adults. And now Bonnie had finally found an adult who could actually solve this problem. After hearing Bonnie's story,
Killian fell silent for a moment. Looks like your daddy needs to teach them a lesson.
the moment he said this, Bonnie and Ellen stared in utter disbelief. This high and mighty young master had actually called himself their father. Seeing the looks on their faces,
Killian raised an eyebrow.
I said I wouldn't be your guardian. Or do you two just want a title? Ellen stammered in protest. Wasn't that just a joke?
You're just messing with kids like us.
A joke?
Then why would I do so much for you?
Alan bit his lower lip. Because you love seeing us get all hopeful and flustered. Hearing this, Killian smirked and asked, So, you were hopeful and excited, just because I said I'd be your dad? Alan's face instantly flushed bright red, but Bonnie's eyes lit up. My lord, do you really want to be Bonnie's dad? Well, didn't you ask me first? Yes, I asked you to be my guardian and raise me. Killian stared quietly into Bonnie's eyes. Do you hate the idea of me being your dad? Bonnie opened her mouth, her fingers subconsciously fidgeting with the hem of her dress.
She didn't actually hate it.
But Lyriel's warning still rang in her ears. My little lady, you must never trust humans too much. They will only stay with you until you grow up. But you must be a good child, so they won't hate you.
Do you understand?
Bonnie had nodded innocently back then. Bonnie didn't trust humans. She only trusted Luriel. But can't Bonnie stay with Luriel forever? I hate humans.
I only like Luriel.
Hearing this, Luriel's heart melted. She hugged Bonnie tightly, nuzzling her. How can she be so cute? Those damn bastards won't bully her, will they?
How could a child like this ever be a villainess?
What did you say? Nothing, my little lady. Luriel loves you the most, too. But because you are so special, you have no choice but to live with humans for a while.
But you must never crave their love.
You have to treat them like suckers and milk them for all they're worth.
But right now, the voice inside her that craved a father was screaming wildly.
Luriel, just this once, let Bonnie be selfish for once. Bonnie flashed a sweet smile, looking absolutely adorable.
Joyfully, she placed another pouch, stuffed with coins, into Killian's hand.
Despite his deep confusion,
Killian accepted it anyway. Oh, right. There's one more thing.
Bonnie tried her best to look mature.
Right.
A place called the Modern Trade Company as the medicine. They're about to make a massive fortune. You've got to keep a close eye on them.
Killian looked completely bewildered.
Watch what? I mean, watch them closely and bet everything you've got. Seeing Bonnie's smug, triumphant little face, Killian's lips twitched slightly. Whoever taught her to say things like that was incredibly vulgar. But he didn't dismiss her words, because he indeed hadn't heard any whispers about Xingao yet.
How on earth did this child find out?
Or is someone pulling the strings behind her? So, what brings you here today? I'm here to give you some pocket money. Killian couldn't quite grasp her logic. Are you asking for pocket money? Bonnie shook her head with immense pride. No. How could Bonnie ever do that? Bonnie can do just fine on her own. I won't be a bother to anyone.
Killian raised an eyebrow and finally nodded,
As if encouraged. Bonnie suddenly leaned her head right next to Killian's hand and called out in a sweet, babyish voice, Daddy! Killian froze for a second, but ultimately reached out and gently ruffled her soft hair.
Having gotten your wish, Bonnie beamed with pure joy.
The next second, she pushed a stiffened Alan forward. Alan needs one too. No, there's really no need. Alan waved his hands frantically, but that large hand had already gently landed on his head. Alan froze instantly, his face burning red hot. All right, that's it then. See you next time. The two children bowed and took their leave.
Silence once again filled the corridor. Killian stared at his hand.
his gaze instantly turning dark and deep.
Just as he suspected,
There was indeed a faint trace of demonic energy lingering on that child.
Approaching him really was part of some hidden agenda.
And that was exactly why he kept Bonnie by his side. But I have to admit, that little guy really is quite cute.
For now, I'll just wait and see.
he turned around and headed back to his room,
Closing that heavy door once again.
Under everyone's watchful eyes, 4-year-old Bonnie summoned a tiny little egg. What he never expected, though, was that this quiet little egg would end up causing him a mountain of trouble.
Every year, the Duke of Diaz's estate holds an interview for the children who have completed their summoning ritual.
This isn't just a time for the Duke to personally plan out the children's futures.
It's also a critical moment to judge the quality of their summoned beasts.
Rumors have it that the Duke is absolutely terrifying.
If you hesitate or make even a tiny mistake when answering his questions, you'll get a brutal scolding.
The whispers of the other children waiting in line drifted straight into Bonnie's ears. I heard he absolutely loathes liars.
And if a kid is useless, he'll never look at them again. Plus, if you can't answer his sudden questions, you'll be secretly sold off. He watches your manners too. Last time, someone ate a snack sitting on the table and got completely ripped apart.
Hearing this, Bonnie's little face tensed up. She instinctively hugged the little panda in her arms tighter.
She muttered to herself, "Grandpa Duke is such a scary, greedy human."
But she didn't panic. Don't worry, she thought.
I brought some super valuable info with me. He's definitely going to think I'm a super useful kid.
Lying right now is only to protect my baby black flame dragon. Once the giant dragon unleashes its power, nobody will ever look down on me again.
Bonnie has a super amazing egg, and I can make lots of money.
And I've got so much secret info.
Bonnie is super duper awesome.
I'm absolutely going to ace this interview. Watching Bonnie's hilarious, rapidly shifting facial expressions.
What kind of crazy scheme is she cooking up now? Finally, it was Bonnie's turn to go in. The moment she walked through the door, she gave a deep, 180-degree bow.
Hello, Grandpa Duke.
I'm Bonnie.
And I'm 4 years old.
The Duke gave a subtle nod.
Bonnie struggled to clamber up onto the chair across from the Duke, her big clear eyes staring back at him with innocent curiosity.
The Duke studied her closely.
Feeling a slight stir in his heart. Up close, she looks even cuter.
He suddenly snapped out of his daze,
Clearing his throat to hide his embarrassment.
Bunny, right?
She actually summoned an egg this time. With that, he slid a plate of exquisite cookies in front of her.
Bonnie's eyes went wide as she stared at the cookies.
The rumor she had just heard flashed through her mind.
Even though she was already drooling with hunger, she instantly went on high alert. No, I can't eat this.
It's a trap.
Bunny is no fool. She won't fall for this.
But the Duke, seeing she wouldn't eat, looked a bit puzzled. Do you not like cookies?
He had specially prepared them for this adorable child.
He let out a helpless sigh and reached his hand out to Bunny. Could you let me see the egg? Bunny immediately began rummaging through a rabbit backpack. Carefully, she pulled out the egg wrapped in a handkerchief and held it out to him. Her tiny face beamed with pride.
It's a baby black flame dragon. Wait, what did you say?
A black flame dragon is going to hatch right here.
Bunny puffed out her chest, brimming with absolute confidence.
After all, Luriel had promised her that she would definitely summon the coolest, most powerful creature ever.
When that happened,
Even the Duke himself would be proud of her, right?
my daughter is truly an extraordinary child.
Bonnie let out a smug little giggle. When that time came, she would definitely wrap the Duke around her little finger.
The Duke stared intently at the egg from a distance.
Just as he reached out a finger to touch it, the egg on the table suddenly trembled.
Bunny's eyes went wide in shock. She watched as the egg slowly floated up into the air.
Glowing with a faint mystical light.
With a soft click, it latched itself right onto the Duke's ring. The very next second, the gemstone on the ring suddenly shattered. A torrent of energy was violently sucked into the egg. Right before their eyes, the egg visibly grew a size larger, and its glow turned blindingly bright. Bunny was completely stupefied. Oh no. Her egg just ate Grandpa Duke's ring. She watched as the egg gently floated back down onto the table. The Duke's brow furrowed deeply, a sharp, intense light flashing in his eyes. It absorbed the energy and grew.
It seems it is already conscious.
Is it alive?
Looking at the Duke's increasingly grim expression, Bunny's heart hammered in sheer terror.
Oh no, Grandpa Duke is angry.
She scrambled forward, jogging right up to the Duke,
And pulled out an old pouch filled with coins, holding it out with trembling hands.
She bowed frantically, apologizing over and over. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
My egg is still just a baby.
He's usually so good. He doesn't bite.
Today, maybe he was just hungry. Watching this ridiculous scene, the Duke grew even more bewildered. It reminded her of when she was little. Back when she had stolen and eaten someone else's chocolate.
Liring had apologized and paid them back just like this. She raised her pitiful little face and looked up at the Duke.
Can Bonnie buy this?
The Duke was slightly surprised. You want to buy this?
This is the Ring of Victory, set with a victory stone.
Hearing this, Bonnie instantly went pale. A ring? That sounded so expensive. She tightly clutched her meager handful of coins, tears welling up in her eyes. With a choked, trembling voice, she whimpered,
Is this not enough?
Bonnie never could have imagined
That her tiny little egg had actually ruined the Duke's precious ring of victory. When she realized that even all her savings wouldn't be enough to pay him back, Bonnie felt a sting in her nose, and she almost burst into tears. Looking at her pitiful little face, the Duke sighed helplessly.
he suddenly took off the ring, silly placed it in Bonnie's palm,
And took the tiny coin pouch she was clutching.
It's enough. It's enough.
In fact, there's even change.
Little did she know, the ring was worth 100,000 times more than that pouch.
Yet, this powerful Duke was more than willing to let it slide.
After all, he was completely helpless against such soft, adorable little things.
The interview continued.
but the atmosphere was much warmer now.
The Duke looked over Bonnie's report card, its gaze lingering on the forest section for a long time.
He couldn't help but look up to study the girl in front of him.
Bonnie was so nervous that her little hands were sweating.
Well, that's not bad. In fact, she ranked number 1 among children under 10 years old.
After all, the rules stated that anyone under 10 was forbidden from entering the trial grounds.
But Bonnie was the sole exception.
Hearing that she was number 1, Bonnie's tense little face instantly lit up with pure joy.
Really? The Duke avoided her intense gaze, pretending to be deeply engrossed in some completely unimportant paperwork. Waving his hand slightly, he asked, "So, what do you want to be when you grow up?"
Bonnie wants to be a super demon king.
Bonnie blurted it out without a second thought.
But when she saw the Duke's expression subtly freeze,
She snapped back to her senses and quickly corrected herself. "Oh, wait, no, that's not right.
I meant, Bonnie wants to be an archmage who is even stronger than the Demon King.
it was the first time the Duke had ever heard of such an aspiration.
Are you not interested in becoming a high priest or a saintess?
In our Udia family, that is the greatest honor. The closest one can get to the gods. Bonnie thought long and hard about it, and then beamed a bright, sunny smile. Bonnie likes grand mages the best, because deep down, she knew very well, if she ever got too close to a deity,
Being a descendant of the demon clan, she would probably be instantly turned to ash.
even though it was impossible for anyone from the Udia family to become a mage. The Duke didn't laugh at her. Instead, he offered words of encouragement. "I'm sure you can do it.
As for that egg you summoned,
I've never seen anything like it before."
So, I'm not quite sure if it's a sacred relic or a divine beast that's currently hatching.
But seeing how confident Bonnie looked,
The Duke picked up his pen and wrote, "Egg of the Black Flame Dragon," on the document.
The interview is over.
the Duke set the paperwork aside.
Asked Bonnie once more, "Would you like some pastries?"
How about some juice?
though her mouth was watering like crazy.
Alarm bells were still ringing loud and clear in Bonnie's head. "This is a test from Grandpa Duke."
Bonnie is a big girl now.
"I don't mean pastries or juice."
How about I pack them up for you to take home?
The Duke's simple offer instantly shook Bonnie's resolve. If she didn't eat them right in front of Grandpa Duke, it should be fine, right?
After an intense mental battle,
Her sweet tooth finally won over her reason.
Watching her reach out to grab the pastries,
the Duke couldn't help but chuckle.
he ordered the butler to pack up a whole basketful for her. It was the very first time the butler had ever seen the Duke show such favoritism toward a child.
And he couldn't help but let out a warm, comforted smile.
Late at night, the entire Duke's mansion fell dead silent. Bonnie was lying in bed, seemingly fast asleep. But the next second, she snapped her eyes wide open.
Creeping out of bed on tiptoe,
She put her rabbit backpack on and gently pushed the door open.
after making sure the hallway was completely empty,
Bonnie darted out. She sneaked into a secluded garden within the estate and pressed her small hand against a rough tree trunk. A faint glow seeped from her palm into the bark. Soon, a thick golden liquid slowly oozed out, hovering right above her palm. With a delighted grin, Bonnie poured the liquid into a jar. This was the exact syrup she used to make candied sweet potatoes. Luriel had warned her that each tree could only be tapped 3 times. Now that she was running out of usable trees, she had to find a new way to make money, and fast. "Hello there, my daughter."
a deep, low voice suddenly echoed right behind her. It startled Bonnie so much that her entire body shuddered.
Her foot slipped, and she almost tumbled to the ground, but a large hand caught her just in time. "Careful now." Bonnie looked up and met Killian's crimson eyes, and her scalp instantly went numb with fear. "My lord."
Killian raised an eyebrow.
Studying her with keen interest. "What are you doing out here so late instead of sleeping?"
Bonnie swallowed hard.
Liriel's warning echoed vividly in her mind. She must never, under any circumstance, reveal that she could use magic. I couldn't sleep, so I came out for a walk," she stammered, her voice trembling violently. Killian obviously didn't believe her. He looked down at her coldly, his deep eyes sharp enough to freeze everything they touched, staring straight into Bonnie's panicked soul. Bonnie felt completely doomed. Was her true identity about to be exposed?